Okay, well, welcome everyone to this open house webinar. My name is Paul Siegel. I'm the president of CandleCharts.com. Joining me here today is Sil. Sil is one of our two Nison certified trainers, meaning he is only one of two people in the world that is able to teach on Steve Nissen's behalf. Sil, in addition to being a Nison certified trainer, is also our software tech guru. He's in charge of helping people utilize the Nison candle scanner. And what we're going to be showing, what Sil will be showing here today, is a quick demonstration of one of the attributes of what Nison Candle Scanner software can do for you. I know that we do have people here in the room that already own the candle scanner, so by all means take notes as to how to get more and more out of the software. And for those of you that don't already own the software, we will be putting up a link if you do have questions or you want to see more information about the software itself. So this is an open house session, which means that there is no real formal presentation. Sil is going to go over an example that you are going to want to pay attention to. But if you do have questions for Sil or for me, please do type those in. We'd be more than happy to answer those for you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn my mic off. I'm going to hand it over to Sil so that he can do his presentation and answer any and all questions that you have about the Nison Candle Scanner. Sil, I'm looking forward to it. As always, over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul, as always. Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, everybody, for taking some time away from your very, very busy schedules with family and work, et cetera. So Nison Candle Scanner, NCS for short. It's been around for a while. A few minor updates here and there that we've added to it, but nothing recently. You see the disclosure up on the screen just to make sure, realizing, of course, there's always risk in trading. I think everybody realizes that when they're going into this thing, but we always have to remind everybody just because it's what we need to do for safety purposes. So let's take that down. And I got a chart up, and mostly if you look to the left side, now you've got the market analyzer, which is where your scans are done. So when you do the NCS is available for only certain platforms. NinjaTrader 8, in this case, is one of our primaries that we use on a regular basis. There's each e-signal, and there's a TradeStation and Trade Navigator, et cetera. So there's one for the Forex and MT4. So there's variations to it, but nonetheless, they're available for those platforms and no others at this time. So then with Ninja, you can do some scans on the left-hand side. You do that with the market analyzer. So it's just essentially looks like a spreadsheet, and you just have to configure it like however you want to do it. In this case, I did do 3 columns, monthly, weekly, daily. I had some stocks, as you see, long and short, and IBD 50. Those were just things I put in there. I have not updated, quite frankly, the tops or the bottoms of those labels, if you will. But so I go through these however I want to go through them. So, but I have these because I'm looking at what may be going on long-term, short-term as well, intermediate. I use this once a week. And I use it, quite frankly, really for one of the key things that we use as for you guys, which is a casual trader. So this is where I'm actually pulling things from. And you can have this used for so many different things. You're looking for scans, ideally, for candle patterns. But if you got strategies of some kind that you're using, you know, whether they're moving averages, crossovers with other indicators, if you're looking for, you know, whatever, maybe head and shoulders, bottoms, tops, then you have to incorporate that as well. What I've done is I did a swing trading course, and so I thought, well, Brian's doing his version the way he does it. I thought I would incorporate the swing trading strategy as one of the many strategies that are available to trade as part of the casual trader. So every time I pretty much got these 2 moving averages up, and I've got my scan to the left, and I just start looking at something that might be interesting based on what the candles are showing, and then look at the chart and the moving averages and say, do they coincide in my mind in terms of what I would like to see happening at the same time? Meaning, I could use a clean screen with no indicators, no moving averages, no volume, nothing, and just look at the candles like the Japanese rice traders did so many years ago, and did very successfully, which I do most of the time, quite frankly. But for the sake of you guys in a strategy, I've incorporated the moving averages as one thing to look at in terms of crossovers and looking for long sides or short side trades, and incorporating then, of course, the confirmation of a candle. I can start with the candle in terms of, I got a bullish engulfing. Now, is there a crossover, or I can go the other way? Is there a crossover and I'm going long, and do I have some bullish candles? It's whatever works best in your mind. I think candles first, and then I look at the rest afterwards, and then I just combine them. So nonetheless, so that's what I've got. So I'm going to just open this up in terms of the column just to show you. I played around with this for a little while, but I didn't want to like drive myself crazy in terms of over analysis, right? So for the monthly, I'm just looking back 3 months, and I was starting to think about, okay, well, if I'm looking for something on a pattern on a monthly, say one candle isn't enough. So I may want to look at a series of them so that if they flash on the screen, at least I'll have an idea of what's been happening for the last 3 months in a bullish or bearish or even neutral state. The weekly, I have as 5 weeks look back, and the daily I have as 3. So there's no real science to this, other than it was just got a little bit of trial and error, and you could drive yourself crazy with all kinds of tests to see which works the best. It was really about looking and seeing what seems to be lining up monthly, weekly, daily. If they're all bullish, maybe there's a variation in terms of a top or a bottom, but there's some variation there. I'm just looking for something that stands out. And if it stands out at all, sometimes nothing stands out. And I just start flipping through something that may have all 3 or maybe only one with all doji, for instance, where there might be a reversal, something like that. So you can play around. If this is something that interests you, by all means. But for me, it's not a massive science behind it other than just some trial and error and then a little bit of random choice. And it just seems to work out fairly quickly for me anyway. So that's it. So what happened back in July, about the middle of the month, it was my turn, as Brian and I alternate the casual trader, and it was my turn to find something. And so I was flipping through and I found SunPower. And so I was looking at, if I look at the monthly, for instance, there wasn't much there. In my opinion, the monthly was not all that instrumental per se, right? It was just quite flat, if you're watching that now. The one thing that maybe stood out was the fact that this was wedging down and there was a possibility of maybe an attempt to break out on the right-hand side. So that was, okay, this is getting very tight, squeezed in, coiled up. That usually means a volatile move will be coming at some point in the near future, right? That's how I look at it. But mainly I'm looking for a trend. So in other words, if you look at this chart on the weekly now, you're seeing on the left-hand side, there's a big cross down. And if you're looking for how that works out, it drops, comes back into that zone, and it starts to go down. Same thing on the reverse back up. I saw this, it was already a move higher. And so we're already in the month of July. And so I was looking at this portion in the middle portion of July and what happened and where I could have possibly gotten in. So the crossover was already there. We're looking on the long side. The question was, did it all still look really good based on candle patterns and everything else? So the weekly, let me go back to middle of July. So we were kind of in like this vicinity. That looked like that. Let me open that up a little bit more like that. There we go. So we're looking kind of like in there. We better check on the exact date. I thought I had it in my head, but apparently I don't. Yeah, July. Let me look at my calendar. So the 14th, the Sunday. Got it. So right there. So it was like that on the weekend. Okay, going into the weekend, that's what it looked like. So if you look to the far left, I'm already noticing, okay, one, the crossover on the right-hand side, but the big breakdown here. So I knew there would be something there and there in terms of target or resistance. Same thing up here. So I'm like, okay, that's I could live with that. Plus the fact that this broke out and I'm looking for a pullback first. So price is down near $10 or possible, and then moves back to 12, back to 14, back to 16. Those are big numbers, right? That's a $6 move, $4 move on a $10 stock. We're talking 40, 60%, right? Cheap stock too, affordable after all the volatility, the compression, you already have volatility picking up. There's high potential for big moves here. So that's what I was looking for. Go with the trend, take advantage of what I see. Are the candles helping me? Yes, they are. So there were, as I said, there's a bullish candle here to start the month of June. After that, there was breakouts. This is a weekly chart again. The monthly chart was showing fairly strong. Now I'm looking for something coming back down. So it was a matter of patience, knowing that I'm looking for a pullback and I'm looking in various levels and various places. There was the resistance there. I'm now looking at places, something like here, perhaps even like percentage retracements as well. You guys know how to use Fibonacci's there to there. even back into the ideal of, as I showed you before, this strategy essentially dictates that you may want to wait for this to come back into the area where the moving averages are. That may also coincide with some kind of support area from before on a breakout and polarity simultaneously. Make sense? So as that progressed, now one needed to be a little patient, but the casual trader is in fact the casual trader. They're casual. They come in and out whenever they choose, once a week, once a month, every 2 weeks, whatever, and they're looking for something that's not going to be like 2 days, probably something that's going to be perhaps multiple days, multiple weeks, maybe even multiple months. Something that's going to be easy, less stressful. They don't have to look at it every day, every minute, every hour, okay? That's what it's about. It can certainly be something shorter than that, but it's in a sense, that's what you're looking for. So again, this is a weekly chart. Weekly, we'll stop step by step by step. It starts to decline back into the necessary area that I'm looking for. So again, I was looking for something in here near $10, maybe lower, possibly as low as 850 to 9, where the breakout occurred. But based on how powerful that was, I wasn't initially anticipating that. But I was looking more at the $10 first and maybe at the 9. But I still just look at the candles in terms of what's happening and then decide from there. So right away at $10, you can see what happened. It just absolutely ripped. That's for the week, of course, right? Not the daily. I'm going to step it down to the daily because, again, the candles were telling me things at that time, and we'll get the minutia of the details at that middle portion of July simultaneously. I'm not sure if Paul is answering some of these questions, but what I'm seeing here is, Hank, as I said earlier, when I first said so, there's only certain platforms it works on. It doesn't work on any platform. It looks like Paul already replied. So thank you very much for that. So let's go down to the daily at this point, okay? And I'm going to take you back to that middle portion of the month where I was at the end of that week and what it looked like. So again, based on the strategy of moving averages, so that's what it looked like at the time, right? So the moving averages, you could be using the weekly or you could be using the daily in terms of how you're planning the strategy. If you're using the weekly, well, then you're looking far longer term. If you're using the daily, then it's going to be a shorter version of a trade. So there's the sharp move, very steep. And anybody out there that follows me at all and listens to me in the recaps and charts of the day, et cetera, know that something this extended away from moving averages, there's going to be a reversion back to the mean of some kind of retracement, right? So they've already had ones here, very powerful move up. And again, now the bearish candles are starting, but to me, those are not as bearish nor as threatening as some of the other ones we've seen, especially against the bullish candles that are there. I know there's going to be a retracement. I'm going to follow the candles very carefully. So what I saw was I saw a bull sash on the weekly. I saw a bearish engulfing at the same time on the daily, etc. I started flipping through a few charts. I maybe had done maybe 3 or 4 max. And I found this one and went, boom, okay, I like it. I like everything about it. I like the breakout. I like the pullback. I like everything about the setups. So now it's just a question of where and when. Is this the time now to purchase based on the candles, again, that are identified? We have a bearish engulfing, which to me is not that bearish. We have a high wave, so it's very bullish in this nature right now. But to me, still too far. And based on the strategy, I would expect it still to come back down inside this area, including maybe at that $11 range, maybe again, as I said earlier, down $10.50, $10, somewhere in there. Volume right now not very strong, which is okay. That means we're still taking profits. Things are moving in the direction that we want. And so that's what it looked like at the time as I did the video. And it starts to just slowly creep lower and holding, not heavy selling, but holding that little breakout area, right, 1150 or so. And there's another one right there, 11, that we'll be looking at as well. So there it goes right down to 311 right away. The selling got a little heavier, but the expected support was right there. The next level that I mentioned before, 1050 to 210. If it's going to go down there at all, right now it still looks like it could, based on the aggressiveness of the selling. And they just kind of dip a little bit, right? And this is where they start to maybe transition toward purchasing. Another little slip right down deep into the moving average. Again, right at the 1050 mark. Could still sell, but again, You just wait patiently looking for the candle. Lower shadows are now telling you the buyers are starting to step in right at a place where you're going to start salivating, because this is exactly where you were thinking. The selling is trying to be heavy, but the buyers are stepping right back in with those lower shadows. There's one last attempt, but holding at the lower shadow. And then it got really quiet here. And then this is where the change occurred, right here, right at that 10, 1025, 1050 area. Right where that original area was, right here, plus the moving averages, right? So in coincidence, right on the weekly chart, this was landing on the top of the red moving average, in this case, the 10 moving average. And that's where the transition started. So if you had identified that, then you might be looking to buy in right away and gotten this. If not, you see this, and this is like, to me, yeah, it's pretty much kind of a given at this point. You're looking higher right away. That's a strong bullish candle following some selling, extremely oversold. You got the high wave. Well, now you don't have, by definition, a true bullish candle by name. You got to believe that's bullish, right? I mean, everything got very quiet on oversold state as support. The trend was broken, and you got this massive, what looks like a bullish engulfing, but you can't call it that because by definition it doesn't fit the criteria. It's almost more like a powerful morning star as well, right? So from there, it just, it took off, right? So that was the benefit of all that going into August. And then it did pull back thereafter. So again, it got very extended. You're looking at profit taking at your targets, and then you had a chance actually to consider getting back in again on the fill of the gap. In this case, as it pulls back to support back into the sweet spot again. Now you've got a Haname, which tells you that perhaps now selling is ended at a former area where there's a polarity and the window was raised. You got a bull sash. Things are still kind of trending lower. Still not convinced you want to get in just yet, so you want to wait, be patient. You're looking for signs. This is getting closer now, just because the original trend was broken, and the like for instance here, like this, but the lows are coming up. So now this is getting a lot more important to watch. Polarity through there. Anything breaking that, then you're looking for, again, another move higher. So maybe you took profits, maybe you added more again on the pullback, maybe you got out, maybe you're going to start over. Depends on your strategy, but essentially that's what's working here. So bull sash, not that powerful, but again, on your side. So you got a Hanami, bull sash, it's reasonable. Another bull sash, it's not all that powerful. Everything's still kind of, waffling back and forth, consolidating. So it's not perfect, but certainly certain levels broken and trend lines broken. You start looking more eagerly and look at what the candles look like at the same time. So it's just trying to back and forth, holding support on heavy sell. There's the high wave, and now the morning star comes in. That's a pretty good sign right there. That's a big green candle against a big red candle that tried to sell, could not. So that's about the signal right there, I think, despite what might appear like resistance. But this looks pretty good based on the previous history of everything else, that's going to be your key. So all of this, remember, started back in the middle of July, provided you all this profit, and then again, if you kept watching it on your own, and perhaps the watch list over here gained more interest and information for you again, but now you've got signs, signals, everything on your side coinciding, and there it goes. So it took a little bit from there, right? It still looked good to me, despite the resistance. The selling reversed right away. If you guys like Kraken snaps, there's a good strong hammer. And again, the series of highs are down. There's the big breakout, and away they go. So one may have waited a little longer. Sometimes people like morning stars. Some people like bullish engulfings more. They like hammers more because they've studied them. They enjoy them. They've had success with them. I don't discriminate personally against one over the other. I am just looking really for size. So, in the world of does size matter? Yes, it does. So that's how it worked out. So the hammer certainly helped confirm additionally, I think, going forward. And then that's where we stand as of today in terms of the trading of this particular stock. Still looks bullish, still looks strong, still looks long for now anyway, into those targets. So again, back to The scanner can be done in so many different ways. It can be done with monthlies, weeklies, dailies. In this case, I did it with 3 columns. You could do individual ones. It's whatever, whatever your take can be. The other thing that, let me see if I can change this here. Yeah, we go. So you see at the bottom with NinjaTrader 8, you can put tabs. So in this case, the tab is, I only have 1 tab, but you could actually have tabs for different things. You could have a tab for just engulfings, another tab for just hammers, a tab for combinations of things, bullish versus bearish candles. So whatever you choose it to be. So you have all kinds of flexibility from the standpoint of how to use the tabs and maybe the different scans that you don't have to recreate them. And keep in mind also there's templates. So when you do these things, you can actually create, your design can actually be saved as a template, right? And then so very easily it'll get loaded and recreated again, so that'd be recreated from scratch. So every tab can already be pre-built and saved, but every template that fits those tabs can also be saved as well. So there's a lot of really fun things that can be used here, and the flexibility is up to you. Which candles you want to put in, how many columns you want to put in, time frames you want to put in, because I've even done some where I did like a daily and then went intraday, 240, 60, 15, and did even up to 3 or 4 columns that way as well. So there's a lot of flexibility with this in terms of how you can go about this. But I want to share at least this particular trade and how it came about, and why I placed it in the casual trader to begin with, and the success that it had as a result of one, just identifying the candles at the time on multiple levels, but more so coinciding it with the pattern of trading strategy. So if those of you don't like swing trading but may not know enough about it, certainly we've got a course on that whole thing. We've got a course on options. We've got courses on all kinds of other things as well. So you may want to talk to Paul regarding those options for you. I'm not sure, there's no other questions that I've seen as of yet. So I'm not sure there's any questions on this. How do you know it was oversold? How do I know it was oversold? Okay, well, I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious, quite frankly. So 2 things would be, one, when you see price up here and moving averages down there, things have to balance out, right? When something swings like a pendulum way out away from center, what's it going to do? It's going to swing back. So at some point, they're going to come back and meet each other, or at least come closer to each other to make it back to sort of a neutral state again, to decide, is it still bullish, or are we done? Are we going bearish? So, and then the candle itself, in this case, on that first move higher, that was a huge move up. That, when price is that high, volume is that high, you've got a shooting star of that magnitude. It's very bullish in nature, but then yet bearish at the same time. So they're going to try to hang on because all the buyers stepped in, but it's going to come back. It has to come back. It's gravity. It's gravity, right? So take a look at charts anywhere, anytime. You're going to see these huge bullish candles and everything looks bullish, and that's when people want to pile in. That's the wrong time to pile in because it's already overdone. So you said oversold versus overbought. So this was overbought here. Oversold another story. In this case, you're in a bullish run. You're in a bullish run, so oversold. I mean, you have multiple red candles, right? At some point, there are no more sellers. That's what oversold means. When something is oversold, guess what? There's no sellers left. All there's left is buyers. So when you start seeing the shape and size of these candles right here, right? Getting smaller, smaller, smaller with lower shadows, and it's happening at a support area, including the support of the moving averages, it's a pretty good indication that something is about to happen, right? Things are getting tight from a standpoint of volatility. The lower shadows, the doji formation, the high waves at a support area after multiple declining candles, and they're getting quieter and quieter. And any attempt to sell aggressively, like for instance, this decently red candle there, I mean, it's not huge, but it tried and it got stopped dead in its tracks, right? Not a good sign. Just like this one here. Huge green, no way. This is going down, right? So down, it comes back up, and it chops around. This definitely was a sign here. When you start seeing big sells that don't go anywhere, big sells, and then of course a reversal there, big sells that don't go anywhere, if they're that big and that strong and they can't get through support, it's not likely they're going to, right? So everything was wedging and the trend was still up. There was a lot of factors to say oversold, overbought. You could certainly use a RSI, you could use a MACD, you could use stochastics, whatever indicators if you're using them now, that would coincide. It's up to you. I don't necessarily need to see an indicator to know what's going on because I understand the candles well enough and I understand the extremes one way or the other. When something's an extreme, it's going to go the other way. When something's an extreme, it's going the other way. So that's on the long side, of course. On the short side, well, obviously it's going to be very, very deep to the downside, right? So kind of like that one there, right? That's pretty heavy. And then you got a big sell that doesn't go anywhere. And then you got a hammer that kind of matches it. So that's a decent sign that buyers are trying to step in. It wasn't really until they got through here and see they retested right there. Up, sold off, came back again. So, you know, there's another one that's overbought versus oversold. Okay. Let's see, any other questions? I don't see anything else. So, I mean, the idea of this today was open house on the Nison candle scanner, how I used it for this particular trade. In this case, that was my example I wanted to use. As I stated, it can be used in so many other ways, so many different ways. The flexibility is all up to you, but it's there, it's available. Where was the buy on that stock? The buy on the stock was, let me see, go back, I'll make this big. So the weekly was telling me a lot. I'll go down to the daily for more fine tuning. The buy, if you didn't buy in here, then you would have bought in after that green candle, because it coincided with support, the moving averages plus the retracement here that took off again, and the candle formations after the deep sell. Percentage wise, I believe there was a decent percentage retracement here as well. If I go back to the high and I go to the breakout area anyway, or slightly lower, let me go to, let's see here. I think I may have done this on the weekly, but it was pretty close to the 50% retracement at the same time, as you can see. So all those things kind of coincided. So that would have been the area to look to buy. Okay, the sweet spot was there, the polarity was there, the lower shadow was already giving me clues things may be happening. The hard sell didn't go anywhere, and these got really quiet. And then if you go even shorter time frame from this to like a 240 or 60, then you got this trend, these trend lines coming down, and it was a breakout of that at that level on a more incremental level as well. Okay. What DVD in Mechanical Charts Academy would you recommend to become a pro? Well, Beryl, I'm going to have you talk to Paul about that. Okay. So this was scheduled for about 30 minutes. My time's up actually at this time. So if someone's asking me to watch gold, gold is going to be part of. Look at the daily market recap today. So I've already done that. I'm going to post it here momentarily. We did gold earlier today, so take a look at that. I didn't do it on these kinds of charts. I did it separately, but take a look at that on the daily recap. If you're not a member, talk to Paul about that as well. Okay, I'm going to call it the day. Thank you so much. If there's any additional questions, of course, Paul will stay on for more. You may also email him at paul@candlecharts.com. But I think Paul's going to hang out here for a little bit as well.
I am so.
Perfect. Yeah, I figured you were. So he's going to answer whatever additional questions as I sign off, and because I've got other duties on my own here. Okay. And Paul, if there's anything in terms of questions coming my way that I can't answer right away, just send me an email and I'll be happy to reply that way. Okay?
So, first of all, thank you so much, Sil. As always, your time is and knowledge is always appreciated. Couple of questions that came in, I just want to answer real fast. First, my email, paul@candlecharts.com. So if you do have a question, if you're watching this, we are going to have the recording available. So if you're watching it via recording, you have a question, by all means, send it to me, paul@candlecharts.com. And even if it's for Sil, you could still send it to me. I'll make sure we get that question over to Sil for you. Also, I had put the link up If you wanted more information about getting or jumping into the Nison Candle Scanner, a question that came in is, how do I learn how to use the scanner? And I'll tell you, upon purchasing the candle scanner, we do provide you with multiple resources that come with the purchase of the Nison Candle Scanner. So they include things like best practice videos, where Sil goes over best practices of what we do in-house, as well as what a lot of our students are using it with. We have various videos on different trade strategies that we use it with, including one I did on the bouncing ball that I've done for years. There's a video that Steve did on how he uses the Nison Candle Scanner. There are all kinds of other resources available, including how to install it. And the great thing is you can install the candle scanner on 2 computers, and you could change those. We have people that have had the candle scanner for a decade, and obviously in that time frame they either replaced or upgraded their computers or things like that. So all you would have to do is basically uninstall it off of machine 1 before you could install it on the next machine. And we provide you all the resources of how to install and how to set up data feeds and things like that when you go with the candle scanner. So I did put the link up there. I know I got a couple people asking questions. The special offer is available on that link. I'm going to put it up there again. We do offer it in a monthly subscription, as well as an annual, as well as a lifetime subscription. Any and all of those subscriptions do come with upgrades and updates. So anytime we upgrade it or update it, it does come with it. So you would not have to worry about updating or anything like that. We take care of that for you. For example, when we first rolled this out on NinjaTrader, I believe about a decade ago, I think NinjaTrader was just converting up to NinjaTrader version 5. So people that bought it back then and were using it on NinjaTrader 5 have been able to put it on NinjaTrader 6 and 7 and 8, and eventually whenever NinjaTrader comes out with 9, our software will be compatible with 9 as well. So I hope I answered those questions. Again, my email is paul@candlecharts.com. If you do have a question that I can help you out with, by all means type that in right now. Otherwise, I will be tuning out if I don't see any questions pop in the next couple of seconds. I do want to thank you for this open house. And if you do have feedback regarding this session or anything else that we do, I always love getting emails from people. Again, paul@candlecharts.com. It's been a pleasure as always. And again, I want to thank Sil for his time today, jumping in and showing just one very brief example of how to utilize the Nison Candle Scanner. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.